a decision that would have direct repercussions for Scotland's Italian population.
Unfortunately, I was born just at the wrong time, 1930, so that I would grow to be 9 when the war broke out, and then wait anxiously for a year for what I knew the Italian government was going to do.
My stepmother had taken me out to the pictures. Poulston and Hall had gone to the cinema. And while we were in the picture house, the lights went up and the manager came on to the stage and said, "I'm very sorry to announce that Italy has come into the war on the side of Germany."
Italy's dictator has taken the plunge. The young Italians who cheered the decision so wildly will have cause to regret. The Duce's years of bluffing must now be transformed into reality.
A tinge of shame came over me when I heard Italy declaring war in this country, because France had already fallen, and I said to myself, that's not very nice, striking her in the back when she already fallen in any case. So I wasn't very happy with that.
My dad says, "Flora, it's going to be trouble."
The public's resentment of Italy's declaration was made all too apparent when angry mobs took to the streets looking for scapegoats to attack. Italian businesses across Scotland were to feel the brunt of this.
That night at about 6 o'clock, our shop was smashed and vandalised. People that you knew, people that had been your customers, and I was watching from the upstairs window. They wheeled a barrow down the road full of stones and stuff, and smashed the windows and went in and took cigarettes.
Immediately Mussolini declared war, police began rounding up Italians.
Overnight, Italians living in Britain went from being well-integrated members of society to dangerous aliens and the enemy. On Churchill's orders to collar the lot, the net was spread very wide, and some 4,000 Italians were arrested and interned, a policy now being questioned for its harshness.
My father was very worried about what was going to happen, and so he made arrangements with the bank and different suppliers of goods and so on, that they would be dealing with my brother rather than himself.
My father had advised me what to do in the factory and all the rest of the things, checkbook, keys and so on, and the policeman came to the door. And I thought to myself, oh gosh, my father's going away already. But no, it wasn't my father who wanted, it was me.
I just remember my father and mother sort of crying in the house before he was arrested. And I felt a heaviness. I was only 6.5, but I felt something was wrong.
Private detectives came in, private car. Mr. Gallo, yes. Emilio Gallo, yes. I'm afraid you'll have to come with us. Shut your shop up. They wouldn't even let him change his clothes. They wouldn't let him put anything clean on. And he didn't even have any time in the house. They just whipped him away.
It was 3 weeks after that before my father was taken, and 2 detectives came. We were sitting having tea actually, and they came in and said that they were very sorry, but they would have to take him away. And I can remember I was sobbing my heart out because they were taking my daddy away.
Many aliens, too, are on the move. However, to be interned in Britain is like paradise when compared with a Nazi concentration camp, so there shouldn't be any complaints here, even if the internees have literally to make their own beds and take in each other's washing. They'll get perfectly decent treatment and plenty to eat. But obviously the country must protect itself against the fifth column.
All the women who were still of Italian nationality were thrown out of Edinburgh. Most of them went down to Peebles, but we couldn't find anywhere to stay in Peebles. So we ended up in Clydebank in Glasgow just before the big Blitz. And we spent 3 dreadful weeks in the basement of a tenement in Clydebank while the Germans tried to flatten the place.
As the Italian community were being uprooted from their homes, the Poles were greeted into Scotland with open arms. So many foreign troops in Scotland was something of a new experience for the local communities where they were based, and their presence was affectionately referred to as the Polish occupation.
Before we in Britain had realized what was happening, the fate of war brought us together. We, the Scots, and you, the Poles.
At first I think people were a bit apprehensive about this Polish army coming in, but they were all very, very neat, exceptionally neat. Very, very courteous. No matter who to, they really were courteous.
Our eyes were upon you, the first strangers to come here for generations.
I couldn't tell you why I had an appeal, but our approach to women, ladies, girls was completely different. We always treated them much nicer, polite, kind, give a place, give a room.
They were extremely romantic, and they were very good looking, and they had the kind of manners and mannerisms that you didn't find very usual in Britain, you know. And I suppose there was a certain amount of glamour about it, you know.
Voulez-vous promenade avec moi ce soir, or words to that effect in Polish? A golden opportunity to learn a few phrases like, look out, here comes father.
I arrived on the 27th of July. On the 2nd of August, I met Jean. So that was not very long time, it was almost a week, isn't it? And of course, somehow we either liked or something, there was some connection between two of us.
Well, actually we were introduced by my sister, who was very friendly with one of his mates, his friends. And we were having a walk through Kelvin Grove Park one Friday evening in August, 2nd of August, and that's how I met him. And that was it. I was nearly 15, Mietek was 19.
Oh yes, we went and of course discussed lives and how things worked and how our thoughts were, which were difficult to describe then, but the snogging was all right. Although Jean was quite young, but we managed all right.
It is with regret that we say farewell to these carefree people and catch a final glimpse of a rustic dance typifying the persuasive powers of the Scots.
After their training in Scotland was complete, many of the Polish soldiers were sent off to see enemy action. But some had already embarked on relationships that would bring them back to Scotland whenever they could.
He didn't meet my mum until his first leave, and he came to my home and stayed with us during that leave. My mother thought it was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, she'd never met anybody like that before, and she took to him, very much so. And then he went back to camp, flying, and as I say, his second leave was in June of that year, 1941, and he was shot down at the end of June, which was horrendous.
Now we are crossing the coast, the last point beneath us where friendly British hearts are still beating. From now on, we're approaching hostile territory.
Flying to Bremen, we were shot down, and being on fire, we had no other options but to bail out.
Mietek was immediately captured by the Germans. He was sent to a prisoner of war camp, leaving Jean back in Scotland, unsure of what the future would hold. Many Italian families in Scotland faced similar uncertainties about their loved ones.
No one could get news at all about where any of the Italian internees were.